How do you feel about the start of the game?
It's definitely not ideal. Basically, I'll give you a rundown of what happened. Uh, we spawned in and we kind of all looked at it. We saw the gems and the salt were obviously most interesting, but the only problem is the gems were on tundra. So we wanted to settle near enough the gems that we could access it early, but we didn't want to get too close to have to make a good chunk of our territory useless tundra. So eventually we decided that we should obviously move the warrior. Moving the warrior did not give us enough information to make a decision because we really wanted to settle on a hill, but we couldn't find any hills. We decided that settling on the gems is a bad idea because most of our territory would be tundra. So basically we decided to settle on the cows because the cows would give us a nice food bonus, a little bit of production bonus, and it was in the middle of grassland and a forest. So that would give us access to production from the forest and food from the grassland. It was also within range of the deer, salt, and gems, if I believe. And there were also a few hills, but those are a couple tiles away, so we wouldn't be able to access them right off the bat.
How do you feel about the start of the sub/government?
Most of you joined after the post on r/civ server, which was recently. Before that, we had roughly 170 subscribers, and most people were heavily involved in the political process, and that made stuff like a lot easier because they watched everything developed as it went, so it was less of a surprise when they saw dramatic laws being changed and stuff like that. Stuff really worked. I mean, all the ministers, we only had 9 candidates for the ministry, and it was some votes were close, but if you look at the votes, I believe we had the system set up where you choose your top 5. The number 1 would get 1 point, your number 2 would get 0.8 points, and so on. That was how the original voting was set up. So if you looked at it, I believe racist me had about 25 points. I had about 23 points. And then the next person under that, I think, had 18 points. So it was a very, very large difference.
You mentioned racism. He was a fairly popular vote, having the most votes before he stepped down not one day later. Could you tell us a bit about him?
Basically, racist me's whole platform was to try to get the citizens involved. That's why he won by such a landslide. He wanted to get the citizens involved, and a lot of the ministers, when we discussed this, we endorsed him specifically because we wanted somebody to be able to keep the citizens involved. For example, I believe my platform was to sort of keep everything. Since there were 5 ministers, I would sort of act almost as a tiebreaker to try to settle any arguments. Although, I mean, not sadly. Luckily, there haven't been any arguments so far, so I haven't got to do much for that. We really wanted Racist Me because Racist Me his platform was sort of different than all of us, but not different enough that it would cause arguments. He just operated on a different idea, which was to allow citizens. But he stepped down, bringing in Servo. And Servo, I'm really glad it was Servo. I actually voted for Servo as my first pick because Servo he's a talented minister, he knows what he's doing. But so yeah, the ministry did get a little screwed up. Also, Monty Mole the dog, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of you don't even know who that is, to be honest, because he was also elected minister, but just kind of dropped off the face of the earth for the first couple days, joined in the third day for like an hour, and then just left again, and we haven't heard from him since. So that's another kind of bad thing. So we're off to a pretty rough start. And then when the whole Civ post came out, we got a ton more users. It was really nice, but I mean, you got to understand that it caused a lot of problems because we went from having a small group of people that all knew what was going on to having just a ton of people that didn't know what was going on. I mean, at one point, we've gotten into arguments with people who don't even know what we're talking about, that think we're talking about, like don't even know what the Constitution is and stuff. It's just, we really want people to I don't know how to say this without sounding condescending, but we really want people to like know what's going on before they try to argue. And I'm not talking about all the people that we argued. I'm pretty sure everybody that was in the debate today definitely knew what they were talking about. It's just a lot of people are making assumptions that the ministry is going to attempt to screw everything up. And I mean, I understand that we're trying to make laws to make it so the ministry doesn't get too powerful And I mean, if the ministry doesn't do anything wrong, then I guess having these laws has no harm. It's just we're trying to. Most of us are trying to negotiate, whereas they're trying to come to a compromise. Where a lot of our quote unquote opponents are trying to get their side of the ministry not having full power. And I mean, I don't think we have a lot of power, to be honest. Like, I think the whole impeachment thing, yeah, I think a lot of our power relies in the fact that it's possible to do stuff against us. It's just not necessarily easy. Like, you need the whole majority vote. It's going to take a long time to impeach somebody. And I mean, in my opinion, that's good to a point. I believe that the ministry should not be all powerful, but we need to be powerful enough that we can lead that we should be able to lead our nation. And if people are constantly stepping on our toes, because I mean, we have almost 1,000 subscribers. If each of those 1,000 subscribers is powerful enough to not enact their own laws, but, powerful enough to do what they want to do, it's going to cause a lot of problems, which is why I think that the ministry definitely needs to be able to have enough power to keep everything under control. I also believe that the second ministry election is going to be a lot different with all these people and all these opinions now that we're having political parties and stuff beginning to surface.
What do you think about the current issues right now, especially about concerns that ministers have too much power?
I'm pretty sure most of us can agree on is that we want people to get along. We're all a part of the same government, and we need to realize that. We need to actually work together. I also feel like a lot of this is coming from, if you look, pretty much everybody that has disagreed with our process of ministers having too much power are the mayoral candidates. And if you look at a lot of the veterans from the subreddit, almost none of them think that the ministers have too much power. And that's because it was generally decided that the mayors were not designed to have full-on power. They're really designed to, the way I one time described them is to lift the weight off the ministry's shoulders for managing cities, which is, I feel like people just need to understand that since a lot of people that are coming into this is their first election, and they're kind of freaking out, and they're trying to make sure that they have as much power as possible within boundaries, So I feel like people will, as time goes on, like you said, the power dynamic, people should probably begin to understand the power dynamic. People are thinking, they're seeing the mayoral elections, and they're saying, okay, I want power, because this is the first thing that they joined in. They want to be powerful, because when we first joined in the ministry was the first position set up when we joined in. And the ministry was kind of known to be not all powerful, but the main power in the government. And now that the more people are coming in as the mayors, it's kind of hard for them to understand that, because they're first joining in, they're the first part of the government, and they don't understand that the mayors are not necessarily, I mean, I don't know. I do believe that mayors should be political players, but maybe I could put it this way. They're less part of the actual government. They're more part of the gameplay. They're designed to just know what's best for their city and game. Because a lot of the discussions have either been about the game or about the government. And I believe that the mayors should be more focused on the game.
What do you think about the parties and unions that have formed around the subreddit?
First of all, you got to understand that I'm coming at it a bit from two different directions. One, as an admin of the subreddit, who is definitely not supposed to have anything to do with politics. I've already made that pretty clear. But I do, as an admin, I want community involvement. I want stuff to get sparked up and interesting. And the political parties are definitely doing that. As a minister, I don't think that there are any problem, but I also don't want to take a part in any of them, because I don't know what's going on with them, to be honest. I'm kind of letting them sort out their own thing. So, I mean, I definitely think they're interesting. I'm really glad that they exist. I think they're really cool personally. As a minister, I think I'm just going to try to avoid them. And then as an admin, I'm going to encourage them, but I want them to develop by themselves.
What are your hopes on the future of the government, the laws, etc.?
It's really just designed to exist to be molded and formed into an actual government, because it's not hard to say that right now we do not have an actual government going down.
Can you explain to the viewers about the terms of the ministry and how the process works?
50 turns. Elections for new ministers must be held. Now, there is also a law that states every 20 turns elections will be held and new ministers can be chosen. And this may be kind of confusing, but basically the Constitution states that at least every 50 turns as the maximum. We cannot up the 50 turn limit without citizen approval, but the 20 turn limit can be up without citizen approval.
What do you think of the impeachment law?
I mean, I believe it's a good law. I think it does. I wanted basically to let people know that we're not afraid to limit our understand that we should not be all ruling, and that we want people to take action if we do something wrong. So the gist of the impeachment law is the ministry can start an impeachment law by getting 4 out of 5, the 1 out of 5 obviously being the person being impeached. So if everybody but the person being impeached agrees, it will begin the impeachment process, which basically just calls a yes or no vote. And the citizens will vote yes or no. If more people vote yes, then that person will get impeached. And on the ballot is also where you can choose a candidate to take their place. And that will include a write-in option, so you can do anybody. Or it'll also have a list of all the candidates that ran last election. And now, if 30% of the what we consider the current electorate, which is the last people that voted in an election. For example, if 100 people vote in the last election, then 30 people will raise their concern in whatever way. They make a petition, make a post, I don't really care how they do it, they can do whatever they want. Then it will begin the impeachment process, and that basically just takes the place of us doing it. It'll then go to the vote, and of course we still need 50% of people. But yeah, basically the ministry is allowed to take action, and the citizens are allowed to take action. And there's also the mayor law, which has been a big issue. Basically, the mayors are able to control the city. That's the gist of it. What people really are not liking is that we have the ability to remove mayors. And I get why people don't like that, but you have to understand that the citizens work proactively and we work retroactively. The citizens will try to elect whoever they think is the best, but it's very hard to tell who is the best if we haven't seen them actually play. I mean, somebody could have the best campaign ever, and then they could just sit there and just spam workers the entire time. Now, if that happens, we need to be able to take action, and it's 5 out of 5, I believe, or 4 out of 5. And I think we are the ones playing the game. To think of it this way, we're the ones playing the game. We don't want somebody who is not playing the game well to run to be the mayor. People are saying that we're somehow going to use this ability to remove people to our power. I don't really see how that could work, since, as I mentioned earlier, the mayors should not have anything to do with the actual, not anything. They should be able to do suggestions. They should not have any official business in the government creating process, if that makes any sense. So that's why we're playing the game. We should be able to take out people that we don't think are playing the game well.
What's your plan for the Civ going forward?
It's a very broad, open question. And as you said, our start is not great. Normally, if you have a great start, you can tell what you're going to do based off of your start. But our start is kind of weird. I'm thinking, I personally tried to get everyone to play wide, but 4 out of 5 of the ministry, everyone else wanted to play tall. So, I'm not going to say no to that. We're playing tall. So, I don't really know a common startup in production when you play tall, which is why it's good that we have 4 ministers, because I don't know what we're doing right now, to be honest. I've been focusing a lot more on the actual government part of the game rather than I still did help. I think I was the one that decided where we're gonna settle actually. So it's not like I'm not doing anything. It's just, So I think that we're going to try to get We're probably going to get a shrine because religion is very important.
Earlier today, there were talks about the judicial system to keep ministry powers and other offices in check. What are your thoughts?
I believe that the whole judicial system needs to have a separate goal than the ministry. Our goal is to focus on playing the game right, and I'm going to be honest here. Staying in power is one of our goals. I know the citizens would want to hear that we're trying to remain neutral, but I mean, let's be honest. I'm not going to lie. We all want to be in power. Everybody wants to be in power. That's why we're all running for mayor and stuff. I think that, we're trying to keep in power. We're not trying to do it in a shady way or anything. We're trying to do it all legit, and we're not. I'm definitely think that priority of the citizens take priority over us staying in power. And I'm partially saying that because I know if I don't say that, people will get mad at me and won't stay in power. But I'm also saying that because, it's true. I'm just one person. The citizens are 1,000 people. I can't try putting myself in front of them. But the judicial system really needs to be able to create laws to keep the ministry in check, but they should not have to work for power. I think the reason the ministry is trying to become more powerful is because, we can. Why wouldn't we, I think that we're doing a good job as a current ministry. I think us staying in power is not a bad thing, even though some people might see it as, but that's their opinion. I think we need to, the judicial system, they need to not want to fight for power. They need to have enough power to not want power, but also not enough power that they can get more power easily, if that makes any sense. I personally believe that they should be able to reign reign is not a bad word. I think they should be able to hold the position indefinitely, or at least a very long time. And of course, standard impeachment processes will apply. And that also does mean that if they do something that we don't like as a ministry, we can vote to impeach them. But of course, the impeachment law is designed that the citizens have action in it as well. So the citizens will have to have majority vote. So we can't just vote them because they're being mean to us, I think that they should work to keep us in check. They should also have a vote on laws, and I think they should vote on which laws actually affect us, whereas laws that have nothing to do with us, like city naming law, they don't really need to have any part of that. That's none of their business, to be honest. That's no one's really business. It's a quick, simple, fun law. I just believe that basically the judicial system needs to exist to keep us in check without us having to keep ourselves in check, because that's awkward, you know what I mean?
Will you be endorsing mayoral candidates?
We're not going to be endorsing any mayors. It's good that you guys are looking for endorsements. It's a good move politically. But just for certain reasons, we do not plan on endorsing any mayors. So yeah.
What do you hope to see in the future when your term is over and new ministers take over?
I cannot wait to see that day when people besides me are ministers, because all the ministers currently are veterans that were here from the very beginning that founded this, especially Towel, because Towel literally did found this, and then I was the first moderator besides him and Racist Me. I was one of the moderators. So we basically come from a different standpoint as everybody else. We sort of created this government and we created it in a way that we could support it, but eventually we're going to move on, and it's going to be very interesting watching from a different point of view. I'll probably just focus on just doing the admin stuff on the subreddit. It's going to be very interesting to watch from a different point of view and seeing all these ministers and seeing all the problems that they have. And it's going to be painful knowing that I can't intervene because I'm going to want to. I know that. But I'll probably maybe even join a political party if those are a thing.
Finally, what's your hope for this game, this sub, and this community?
I want it to sort of behave like a real first world government would, without copying a first world government, because we're different than a first world we're different than a regular Western government. We don't. We're playing a video game and they're working on real life. It's very different. They have a lot of issues that we don't have to deal with, such as working on economy and laws that the citizens do, foreign relations. none of that is really a thing for us. So it's a very different environment. But the base idea of checks and balances and stuff is something that in my initial plan that I had written up a long time ago was a thing that kind of just developed itself without me specifically trying to copy like the U.S. government, for example. What I really want to see is our own government that, in a way, conforms to current world government. Because, I mean, it's obvious current world governments know what they're doing more than us. So I think it'd be very interesting if we sort of went along our own path and ended up closely resembling one of those governments that definitely knows what they're doing. Because, I mean, all governments start off rough, and we're definitely rough right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how things turn out. I mean, months later, even maybe, I don't know, year later, I'd like to listen back on this interview and see how different everything is.